Well, hey guys, if you're new here, I'm a board certified dermatologist, and in this video, I'm going to be explaining why it is you develop those little red dots all over your lower legs and around your ankles, maybe after prolonged standing or after a really intense workout. And I'm going to be covering what it is you can do to take control of this skin problem. This skin problem is called a pigmented purpura. Basically what it is the little blood vessels that course through the surface of your skin. They get a little inflamed. And as they become inflamed, the blood within them kind of leaks out into the surrounding skin. And so that's why you see these little red spots, this little blood that's kind of leaked out. Those are referred to as petechiae. And as those red blood cells break down, you can get this kind of yellowish, brownish discoloration. That's referred to as hemosiderin. So it's not uncommon to develop these patches of little red spots in a background of yellow and brown skin. This problem can be completely without any symptoms, but for some people there is a sensation of burning, stinging, and for other people, this condition is very itchy. It can last anywhere from a few hours to days. It can resolve and then recur, and for some people it persists for years. Guess what? Yours truly deals with this, and I have for many years, but I've seen many patients with pigmented purpura. There are actually a few different types of pigmented purpura. The most common pigmented purpura is called Schamberg's. That's where you have, like I said, those yellow brownish patches with overlying scatterings of little tiny red dots. That's referred to as cayenne pepper petechiae if you want to impress your dermatologist, say, hey, I have cayenne pepper petechiae on my lower legs, and they'll grin. And while it is more common on the lower legs and around the ankles, it actually can happen on other body sites as well, like the thighs, the buttocks, the arms. Another variant is called itching purpura, or Ducus and Capitanacus eczematid-like purpura. That's a complicated name, but this type is really itchy and it can be more scaly, more flaky. Then there is there's a variant that is more ring shaped. That's purpura annularis telangiectoides of Maiocchi. It's more ring shaped, anywhere from 1 to 3 centimeter rings of red patches, and at the periphery of them there are these little telangiectasias, dilated blood vessels that you can see. Pigmented purpura of Gujarat and Blum is another variant where you have a specific type of inflammation throughout the skin that accompanies the leaky blood vessels, and that can lead to more thickened areas of skin. Then a rarer variant is called lichen aureus, and this can appear often around the ankles. It has a yellowish brown hue to it. It almost looks like a yellow-brown stain. All right, so those are the variants of this condition, and it's more common on the lower legs and around the ankles, probably because of basically hydrostatic forces. If you think about it, little tiny blood vessels on your lower legs, they have the weight of you on top of them. And if you're standing for a prolonged period of time or doing intense exercise, that puts a lot of pressure on those little tiny capillaries. They become agitated, inflamed, and leaky. So, it makes sense that it happens down there more often, but again, it can occur on other body sites like the buttocks, the thighs. In some cases, this condition may be triggered by certain medications. There are reports of it being triggered by like aspirin, certain diuretic medications like the medication furosemide. In some cases, people are allergic to the dyes in fabrics, and that triggers it. For me, I think that is a trigger, that and exercise. I don't know, I could be overthinking it personally, but yeah, the contact with dyes and fabrics may be a trigger. Some people, there are reports too of people who are allergic to khaki and develop this as an allergic reaction. Food dyes are a common food trigger for this problem. So that's something that, a lot of people notice if they eat like Goya foods, not to call out any one particular brand, but Goya foods notoriously have a ton of dyes in them, like the yellow rice. And for some people, those dyes can be a triggering factor. But for the most part, it's gonna be like brought about by prolonged standing or heavy exercise, especially in warm climates. What can you do about this condition? If it's itchy, topical steroids that are prescribed can help calm down the itch. And then over-the-counter anti-itch lotions can definitely help, like those that contain the ingredient pramoxine or even menthol, which, you know, is fragrance. So if you're allergic to fragrance, you have to avoid it. But menthol can have a very cooling effect on the skin and help minimize itch. So topical steroids and anti-itch creams are gonna help alleviate the itch sensation if you have that, but they're not gonna take the problem away. It's still helpful, however, because if it's itchy and you scratch it, that can make it much worse, because when you scratch, you impair the skin barrier, you cause a lot of agitation, and that can lead to more leaking of blood into the surrounding tissues, exacerbate this problem. So those things are definitely helpful if you have symptomatic pigmented purpura in terms of itch. If you do a little bit of sleuthing and figure out that, say for example, food dyes are triggering this, then avoiding those food dyes certainly can help. But if you're like me and your pigmented purpura is triggered by prolonged standing or heavy exercise, which in most cases it is, then one thing you can do is to wear graded compression stockings. And if you go into like an athletic store or a running store, you'll notice they often sell compression socks that a lot of people wear, and a lot of people talk about the benefits of wearing them from a recovery perspective, an exercise perspective. I don't know about that. I don't have any background in kinesiology or exercise science, but they can help if you deal with pigmented purpura, because they basically, you know, put pressure back on those little capillaries to keep the blood inside of them rather than, you know, leaking everything out all over the place. So those certainly can help. Elevating the legs can help as well to reduce pooling of blood in the lower extremities. There's really not a great treatment for this other than if you have itch, you know, prescription anti-itch creams that have steroids in them will help. But as far as treatments that we can do in office, there has been variable success actually with narrowband UVB phototherapy for at least clearing the pigmented purpura. It doesn't prevent it from coming back, however. So for example, if you develop this and you need it to clear up faster, there are case reports of it being responsive and clearing with narrowband UVB. So I've had really good success with compression stockings and compression socks and keeping the legs. I try and sleep with my legs ever so slightly elevated. That does help with return of blood to the heart. I think that doesn't necessarily prevent the problem from occurring, but it does help in hastening the clearance and resolution. Now, when you have that yellow-brown pigment, just know that that's gonna take a long time to resolve, because what that is basically the red blood cells, they break down, and then cells from your immune system come in and engulf that stuff. They're called macrophages. And that brownish material is something called hemosiderin. It's basically kind of clumps of ferritin, the storage form of iron. And those bad boys are what leave the skin looking brown, yellow, discolored. That can persist for a long time. Another helpful skincare intervention, if you will, is to moisturize the skin and keep it lubricated. This not only helps to reduce irritation on the skin that could further lead to, you know, more leakage of blood out of those capillaries, but it also lubricates the skin surface. For me personally, you know, I've found that this gets really bad as I run and my ankles sometimes brush up against one another. I do find that this can particularly be aggravating to this problem. So putting a little moisturizer or Vaseline on the skin can certainly help a lot. This is a frustrating condition to deal with. It's more obvious on paler skin types. Come spring, summer, when you want to wear skirts and shorts and everything, cosmetically, a lot of people are bothered by the appearance of this and they want to get rid of it. The only thing that clears it up or seems to help in clearing it up more quickly is phototherapy. But as far as things that you can do, it's going to be more about prevention. The compression stockings, leg elevation may help a little bit too, and just facilitating return of blood flow to the heart, keeping the skin moisturized, trying to not scratch. And if you feel like it's really itchy and you need to scratch, apply a moisturizer to the skin that has been chilled. This will help not only moisturize the skin, but the chilled moisturizer, that cold temperature, helps distract those itching signals that the little nerves in the skin put out. So, that can certainly help a lot too. From a cosmetic perspective, moisturizers also help lessen the appearance of it just by, you know, moisturizers, they have humectants in them, which help pull water to the top layers of the skin. And just by light scattering, that helps minimize the appearance of this. If you've noticed, like if your skin gets really dry on the lower legs, the little red dots and things, they're a lot more obvious than if the skin is really well moisturized. So along those lines, make sure you're not bathing in really hot water that can strip the moisture barrier. Make sure you're not using soap down there because it will strip away at the lipids and further dry out and irritate the skin. Just, you know, cool temperatures, water to cleanse the skin there. There are very few oil glands on the lower legs, and so that is one reason why it's prone to irritation, dryness, and slow healing. You know, it's got fewer oil glands to moisturize the skin, and just gravity, you know, it makes it take longer to clear things up on the lower legs. The lower legs are slow to heal. If you've ever gotten a cut on the lower legs, it can take a long time to heal. But if you have this elsewhere, you may find that it clears a little bit faster, like say on, you know, your arms or something like that. Some of these same tips can help, but you may notice that it goes away faster. In some cases, it's, you know, it spontaneously resolves within a few hours, but for other people, it comes and goes, and for some, it just sticks around forever and can be a real pain. Anyways, you guys, that is what those little red spots are. Cayenne pepper petechiae of a pigmented purpuric dermatosis, most common being Schamberg's, but there are many variants out there. I hope this was fun, informative. I hope you learned something. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.